I never thought the person who would break me the most would be my own sister. My name is Emily, and for most of my life, Rachel wasn't just my younger sister. She was my closest companion, my safest place, and the person I trusted without hesitation. We grew up sharing everything: our room, our secrets, our dreams, even our fears about the future. If something good happened in my life, she was the first person I wanted to tell. If something bad happened, she was the one I cried to. That kind of bond, I believed it was unbreakable. Even after I got married to Daniel, nothing really changed between us. Rachel stayed close to me. In fact, she became a regular part of our life. She visited almost every week, joined our dinners, celebrated holidays with us, and slowly became someone Daniel also treated like family. I never felt uncomfortable. Why would I? She was my sister. But life has a strange way of hiding truth in plain sight. There were small moments, things I ignored at the time. The way Rachel and Daniel shared conversations that suddenly stopped when I entered the room. The way they laughed at jokes I didn't understand. The way Daniel sometimes looked at her just a little too long, and I told myself it meant nothing. Because trust makes you blind. And I was completely blind. Until one evening, everything I believed about my life shattered in a single moment. I came home earlier than expected after my meeting got canceled. I remember feeling happy on the way back, thinking I would surprise Daniel. Maybe cook dinner together. Maybe spend a peaceful evening. But the moment I stepped into the house, I heard something that made me stop. Laughter. From the kitchen. Daniel's voice and Rachel's voice. And in that instant, something deep inside me felt wrong. I slowly walked toward the kitchen, each step heavier than the last. My heartbeat was so loud, I could hear it in my ears. And then I saw them. Rachel and Daniel standing too close. Too comfortable. His hand was resting near hers like it belonged there. There was no distance between them.
No hesitation.
No guilt in that moment. Just a silence that felt like a secret I was never supposed to see. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt like my body had forgotten how to respond. Then Rachel looked up, and everything changed. The color drained from her face instantly. Daniel stepped back, as if he had been burned. But it was already too late. I had seen everything I needed to see. The silence between us was unbearable. Finally, I forced my voice out. How long? It came out broken, almost unrecognizable. Neither of them answered. I asked again, louder this time. How long? Rachel looked down. Daniel stared at the floor. And then Daniel whispered the words that destroyed everything. Almost a year.
A year.
12 months of lies sitting right in front of me. 12 months of betrayal hidden behind family dinners, smiles, and fake normal conversations. I felt something break inside me, not just my trust, but my entire understanding of love, family, and truth. In that moment, I realized something painful. Sometimes the people closest to your heart are the ones who know exactly how to destroy it. But what I didn't know then was this. That moment was not the end of my life. It was the beginning of theirs. The days after that moment were the hardest of my life. Daniel moved out within a week. Rachel disappeared completely. No calls. No messages. Nothing. And just like that, I was left alone in a house that suddenly felt empty, even though nothing had physically changed. The divorce process began quickly, but emotional recovery doesn't follow paperwork. Every room reminded me of betrayal. Every silence reminded me of what I lost. But the deepest pain wasn't losing my husband, it was losing my sister. Because marriage can end. Relationships can fail. But a sister, she is supposed to be forever. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over again. Where did I go wrong? What did I miss? How long had I been living in a lie? Those thoughts didn't let me sleep. Nights became longer. Days felt heavier. I stopped going out. I stopped meeting people. I slowly started isolating myself from the world. And the worst part, I started blaming myself. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I was too trusting. Maybe I was the problem. That kind of thinking destroys a person from inside. Until one morning, I woke up and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the woman standing there. Tired eyes, broken expression, a life that looked paused. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized something important. The people who betrayed me had already taken my trust. They had already taken my marriage. They had already taken my peace. But I would not let them take my future too. That was the day everything began to change. Rebuilding my life was not fast, but it was necessary. At first, it was small steps. I forced myself to go back to work. I started focusing on my career. I took responsibilities I had been avoiding. Slowly, I started building discipline again. Pain doesn't disappear overnight, but it can transform into strength if you don't let it consume you. Months turned into years. And slowly, I rebuilt myself. I started a business from scratch. It was difficult in the beginning, but I refused to stop. Every challenge reminded me that I was still alive, still capable. Eventually, my company started growing. Clients increased. Stability returned. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something close to peace. Not because I forgot the past, but because it no longer controlled me. Life moved forward. And somewhere in the background, I occasionally heard updates about Rachel and Daniel. At first, they looked perfect on social media. Smiling photos, trips, fancy dinners. But real life doesn't stay hidden forever. Slowly, cracks began to appear. Financial struggles, arguments, trust issues between them. Ironically, the relationship built on betrayal was now breaking because of lack of trust. Time passed. 5 years later, I was sitting in my office when my assistant walked in. "There are 2 people outside. They want to meet you." I agreed without thinking much. But when the door opened, my entire world paused for a second. Rachel and Daniel were standing there, but they were not the same people anymore. Rachel spoke first. "Emily, please." Her voice was shaking. Daniel explained everything. Their business had collapsed. They were drowning in debt. They had lost almost everything. And now they needed help from me. The irony was unbearable. 5 years ago, they left me to build a life together. And now they were standing in front of me, broken and desperate. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. And then she said something I will never forget. "I thought I was taking your happiness, but I destroyed my own." For the first time, I saw real regret in her face. Not excuses. Not manipulation. Just truth. In that moment, I had a choice. I could destroy them with my words, or I could choose peace. And I realized something important. Life had already given them consequences far greater than anything I could ever do. So I told them the truth. I told them how deeply they had hurt me and how long it took me to rebuild myself. Rachel cried through every word. Daniel couldn't even look at me. When I finished, I offered limited professional guidance. Not for revenge, but because I had finally healed. Some things can never return once broken. Trust is one of them. They left quietly that day. Months later, Rachel sent an apology letter. This time, it felt real. I forgave her. Not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace.
And today,
I no longer see myself as the woman who was betrayed. I see myself as the woman who survived.